so that if anyone has registered and they missed the live session, they can still see the recording. For the purposes of the recording, today is Monday, April 17th, and that is officially the 2023 Week of the Volunteer, and our first Lunch and Learn is regarding 4-H club meetings. And I'm going to go ahead and say that some of you may have already heard this from me in the past, and I'll talk about why I'm offering it again, because it's a very important topic and one that I get lots of questions on. Before we get started though, I would like to launch a couple of questions for you in the poll feature on Zoom. So right now on the screen, you should be seeing a couple of questions. The first one says, in my role as a 4-H volunteer, I am confident in my ability to lead a 4-H club meeting. So please click on yes, somewhat, or no. And then the second question is, I am looking for ways to improve the 4-H club experience I lead. All right, we have a few more folks. It'd be great if you could answer the poll that has popped up on your screen. Okay, I'll go ahead and end the poll. I think everyone had a chance to answer that. And now I'm going to share the results. So you should be seeing the questions on your screen right now. It looks like there's definitely some of you who feel confident in your ability to run a 4-H club meeting, and I'm glad that you're here. Definitely will have the opportunity to do some sharing during the second part of our time together today. Then we have some folks who are here to learn, and that is fantastic. All right, so on the second question is, you're looking for ways to improve. That's great. Glad you're here, and we will definitely be spending quite a bit of time on that today as well. So again, if you are new and just joining us today, welcome. We are currently recording, and I will be stopping my share of those polls now and moving over into our presentation. All right, can everyone see the presentation okay? I'm looking at Melanie, if you could just unmute and let me know that you can see it.
Yes, I can see it, Jill.
Okay, thanks, Melanie. Appreciate that very much. All right, again, a couple folks just joined us. Thanks for being here today, and you're here just in time. So we're going to start off today's session just like I hope you start a 4-H club meeting. I'm going to ask that if you're able to unmute yourself and stand, we will do that today as a way to really model how we should be starting a 4-H club experience. So Kristen Geisert, I'm wondering if you'd be a great volunteer to lead us in the pledge. Fantastic.
I'd be happy to, Jill.
Thank you very much. All right, if you're able to stand, if you're able to unmute, that would be great. And Kristen, go ahead and get us started.
Okay. I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristen, for being a good sport and leading us in the 4-H pledge. I hope that you are leading your youth in the 4-H pledge every time that you have a 4-H club experience, because it's a great way to get us started, not only to help youth learn what the pledge is and the actions, but also remind them that they are pledging themselves to really abide by the pledge of our organization in terms of making good choices and really just being part of this larger group. As we get started today, it's just always good to have a reminder of why we have the 4-H club experience and why it's important and why we should be thinking about how we lead 4-H club experiences and really thinking about the youth and what they're getting from those 4-H experiences. First of all, when we provide an opportunity for youth to participate in a 4-H club meeting or educational event, we are providing a safe place for youth to explore their interest or their passion and therefore find their spark. On Wednesday, we will have a session that is really catered around and really actually showcased by some older 4-H youth who have found their spark in the 4-H program. So stay tuned for Wednesday and/or sign up if you haven't already. When we offer programs that follow our 4-H program and the quality principles that we'll be talking about specifically today, we really focus on youth feeling as though they belong and they have a place in our 4-H experiences. When we have an emphasis on developmental relationships, so that means you as caring adults in your 4-H club role, whether that's a 4-H club leader or a project leader or another volunteer supporting a 4-H club, that means that the idea that they're working in conjunction with you and getting to know you is a really important aspect to them developing a positive relationship with you as well. Oh, my slides got a little ahead of themselves. And finally, when we're engaging youth in a sufficient program dosage, which means we're meeting more than once a year or twice a year. There's a reason why the National 4-H program has a guideline of meeting 6 times per year, is because we know that helps youth engage in a variety of ways with a caring adult and having those positive experiences. So keep in mind when you see some of those rules and guidelines that they're based on research and based on reasons and why we have those kinds of things. So that kind of lays the groundwork of why we're here and why we are leading a 4-H club experience. As we get into what this looks like for kind of a one-on-one, a basic overview of how you can operate a 4-H club experience, you might remember that I've talked about this several times. If you have not heard me say this before, welcome and thank you very much for being here. The reason that I make sure that this is part of a lot of 4-H volunteer learning opportunities is because it's a great reminder. Sometimes if you've been in a 4-H volunteer role for a while, you can kind of get stuck and you start to do the same things every single year. And so this is a great refresher and a great way to help maybe strengthen your club program that you have now. So our session today will be largely based on the 4-H meeting wheel. And in this 4-H meeting wheel, this helps us break down how we can host 4-H club experiences. When we think about what this looks like, it's important to know, we're not asking you to have every single little sliver as part of your 4-H club experience. Rather, it's making a selection out of each category. So let's start with fun, because that seems like a fun way to start on a Monday. And in that red sliver, that red quarter of our 4-H meeting wheel, we see that you're encouraged to have 15 to 20 minutes of group building, which is really a recreation and or social interactions. So that could be things like refreshments, recreation, fellowship, evaluations and celebrations. And some of the ways that we can do this in our 4-H club experiences is really around maybe doing some icebreakers or warm-ups, and that can also be included in that recreational phase. I also currently serve as a 4-H club leader of a club in Platte County, and I currently have a club membership of 52 youth in our club. So even though when we see the word fun, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the meat of our meeting, I try really, really, really hard to make sure that we have some fun aspects to our club meetings, because with 52 youth, I know that not all the youth attend the same school district, know each other from other activities and other things of that nature. So having some fun is really, really important. The next piece we're going to talk about is the business part of our 4-H meeting wheel. And this is the part of the meeting that might trip us up, and we will talk in more depth of some additional resources that you have for making sure that the business part of our meeting doesn't go without being a part of a focus. So when we think about business, we think about group decisions, business meetings, discussion and planning. What are some things that you have in your own 4-H club that you need to discuss? I would love to hear them. If you want to put them in the chat and just add them in, that would be fantastic. And if you can't put in the chat and you want to unmute yourself, I would love to hear you share some of the business items you've done in your club. Community Service Club project, excellent. Any others? Fundraising, 4-H reminders, excellent. Something my club just voted on was a 4-H club t-shirt design, right? So having something as a choice, and then they make a motion and accept that motion as part of their business meeting. Meeting activity for future meetings, excellent. I like to hear the youth voice being incorporated in that way. All right, now down to the purple part, which is really the bulk of our 4-H meeting wheel, is the learning piece. And this learning piece is, as you can tell, a big focus of our 4-H experience and 4-H club meeting time. So we see here that it's recommended to be 40 or 60 minutes, but obviously that's going to vary considerably depending upon what you're choosing to do. So for example, if you're having a youth do a demonstration or a show and tell, and you have a couple of youth who are sharing that day, clearly we're not asking these youth to share for 60 minutes. We need to make sure that we're doing that in an age-appropriate way. But it could be a wide variety of items and topics that you're doing in this learning piece that it might take up to that 60 minutes or more, given what that is, travel time, and things of that nature. We're going to dive into and really focus on each part of the wheel now. And again, I like to start off with the fun piece because I want to make sure that that's emphasized as being important. Definitely some examples are warm-up activities at the beginning. I might encourage you to think about including some warm-up activities, especially at the beginning of the 4-H year, of when maybe you're reorganizing for the year. You may have youth that are brand new and don't know anyone. You may have youth that attend different school districts, and it's just great to get them to know each other and start networking early on. Games at the end, maybe some snacks that have been provided for some fellowship time, and then of course, end of the year celebrations. I would love to hear some end of the year celebration ideas. If you have some great ideas, please put those in the chat. It's always great to get new and fresh ideas of how to do that in a meaningful way to your club. Some clubs find that a picnic at the county fair, where they're already there and they're celebrating the end of their achievements before everyone goes home on that last night, that might be meaningful to them. Others might have more of a meaningful experience if they get together, after the fair and they're going swimming or something of that nature. Thanks, Kate, for sharing about an ice cream social, pizza party. Those are all really, really great things to have as options. So again, if you've done some sort of club celebration, please put them in the chat. It's meant to be a time of sharing ideas as well. All right, so now we're going to talk about the business part, and I realize that this is probably the part that might trip us up a little bit, but it's also, I would say that if you really wanted to go back to our 4-H club meeting wheel, one of the pieces that I take pride in as a 4-H club leader myself is the idea that I hope I'm teaching youth how to run a business meeting. So that wheel piece, this could I could argue that this could be a purple part as an educational piece, because I think I could survey all of you adults that are on today, and you would likely say that, learning about parliamentary procedure and using it and being proficient in it and just knowing what folks are talking about in a business meeting, that you never spent too much time in your youth learning about that, right? I mean, I don't know any adult that says, I learned too much about parliamentary procedure. I just never find that as adults. In fact, I usually survey the parents that are at our first meeting that if, did they spend too much time learning about this in their youth? And they're like, no, I wish I would have learned more. So this is a great opportunity to teach youth how to properly run a meeting. And you may be saying to yourself, well, I don't know either how to properly do this. So I have a couple of resources that I'm going to put in the chat right now that are just super helpful for you to know how are we supporting youth in running a 4-H club meeting and knowing just what to say. So the two links that I have in there include a meeting script that you can print off and give to an officer, a youth officer, and have them run the meeting with that. You may get lucky and have a 4-H club officer team who have experienced this in the past and they don't need that. But if you do, that's a really great resource for you to use. If you've attended the 4-H Volunteer Roadshow, you will know that we experienced this during the roadshow. But I put another link in the chat to something called the Parliamentary Procedure Trail Mix or Snack Mix activity. My club knows that at every single organizational meeting of the year, we are going to be making a snack mix to teach parliamentary procedure. And this is a way to not only teach this to the youth who are brand new, but also as a way for youth to be reminded of just how to make a motion, how to second a motion, how do we properly run a business meeting. And so I do this every year. I have some older youth that kind of help us through. We have younger youth who think it's super fun and are very passionate about whether pretzels go in our snack mix or not. I would just highly encourage you to incorporate this experience into your 4-H club meetings as a fun way to introduce parliamentary procedure. And selfishly, when doing this activity, you also have your snack taken care of as well. So it's definitely a 2-for-1 activity. We're going to pause here for the business part of the 4-H meeting wheel. And I just want to see if there's any questions. You can put them in the chat. You can unmute yourself. Definitely want to hear from you if you have questions at this time. All right, thanks for sharing, Jennifer. The first year as a leader of your club, well, you definitely attended a good session for that. You have your daughter who's 13 and the rest of the members are very young. Well, this is a great experience for your daughter and any other older youth to help maybe run a meeting and just start to introduce some of these concepts. So thanks for being on, Jennifer. Definitely appreciate your willingness to join and get some new ideas. As we go along, if you have questions, please make sure that you put them in the chat, or you can definitely unmute yourself. All right, we're going to move on then to the learning piece of our wheel. And here again is really meant to have this be the bulk part of our 4-H club meeting experience. And from my perspective and from my role as a leader, I really want to make sure that I'm providing a meaningful experience so that families prioritize 4-H club meetings and they also want to be there, right? I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to make sure that's a meaningful educational experience and it's not just another meeting just to have a meeting. And so we're going to go through these in a lot more detail and about just generating some ideas of what we can do as a 4-H club leader to provide a very meaningful experience. Oftentimes, I hear from club leaders and or county staff working with club leaders and project leaders that sometimes they run out of ideas of what they could be doing at a 4-H club meeting. I'm putting a link in the chat right now, which has a link to just 4-H club leader resources for the educational piece of the 4-H club meeting. So on there, there's all kinds of just different ideas for topic areas, also age groups, lots of great ideas that are ready for you to grab and go. But in addition to those, we're going to go through and talk a little bit more about each one of these kind of slices. So we brought up service activities so far. Service activities is definitely one of the pieces that the 4-H club experience is known for. 4-H clubs are often known for their time serving their community, but sometimes we get in the rut. I will speak for myself when I say our 4-H club, we walk a road ditch every single year. That is what we do to serve our community. But sometimes we get in a rut and we need something else, or we need something different. I would encourage you to contact your local extension office. They may have some sort of service projects in mind, potentially at your fairgrounds or other projects that need to be tackled. And that might be a great way for your club to give back for that year. We'll have a topic around tours here in a little bit. I've shared some educational materials with you in the chat. Also, the guest speaker and presentations, we'll talk about that in a moment, as well as special programs and project work. We'll tackle that as well. I would like to take a moment and go to the show and tell and then demonstrations and talks. I would love to see, by a show of just raising your hand, how many of you grew up in 4-H giving a demonstration at a club meeting? Anybody grow up doing that? If you have your camera on, you can raise your hand. If you don't, you can use the little emojis at the bottom. Definitely highly encourage you to make sure that that's happening in your club. It may not happen every single meeting. It may only happen with youth who are above a certain age, but it would be great to help them build some public speaking types of skills in that way. All right, let's dive into some more pieces of having some project work at your club meeting. I would encourage you to think about having a club project. And really encourage you to think about a club project that everyone in your club can do. So for example, you might be the 4-H club leader of a horse club. Your club does horses and horses only. That's fantastic if that's what your club does. It's easy for your club then to pick like hippology or something of that nature for your club project. If you're leading a club that has a variety of ages and a variety of interest levels, think about having a club project that every youth can do, despite maybe where they live and or what projects that they are also incorporated with currently. So for example, I might encourage you not to choose and not to make an option of the agronomy project as part of your club experience, because not all youth may live on a farm and have access to some of the things that the agronomy project offers. I would also encourage you to give some youth voice to what your club project is for that year. If you're in my club, you know that every single year I give them a club choice, and there's always one for this 4-H presentations contest. And there's some youth who know what that means, and there's some youth who love that and some that don't. Oftentimes the ones that don't are elbowing their neighbor saying, don't vote for that one because I don't want to give a speech, right? But it's always an option in my club. The 4-H presentations contest, and then usually one or two others that I know everyone can participate in. This year we're doing veterinary science. It's one where they can pick from a wide range of health management for animals, healthy welfare of animals, feeding practices, all kinds of different things that you can really have a club project that everyone can learn about and execute, despite maybe if they have animals or not, and again, of where they live. So if you've done a club project with your group, I would love to hear what kind of club projects that you've done. We've also done photography and first aid. Again, trying to make sure that we're picking a project that is relevant to everyone in our group, regardless of the project areas that they spend time in currently. So how do we do that? We use parliamentary procedure, right? Usually it starts with the club leaders giving them some options. There's some discussion and some voting. But I highly encourage you to think about what that could be for your club. Does anyone want to share an experience of how they've implemented a club project for their group? You want to put it in the chat, that is fine as well. But having a club project helps you build your club agendas and your club plan of work for the meeting. All right, so let's do a little community audit here. What are some things that are in your community that can help you enrich the 4-H club experience for your club members? So, for example, what are some new businesses in town? Schedule a tour with them. And it doesn't have to be a new business. Maybe it is an existing business, but they've just implemented a brand new line of product. They've just made some great improvements of their facility, and it's something that's brand new and unique to your community. The idea of community celebrations happening. So sometimes communities will have 125th or 150th anniversary happening. And that is a really, really great way to include your club in an experience of serving their community. So is there a way that they can run a pop stand or a food stand during that celebration? Can they help the organizers? So for example, maybe the organizers are hosting a fun run and they need some folks to help direct traffic during the fun run, or provide packets of materials to the participants. There's a community celebration happening. It always has some extra hands that are needed. So think about what that is, and is there an opportunity for your club to become involved in that way? The Cattlemen's Ball is a great example of an event that goes all around the state. And when that comes to your community, I know firsthand there's lots of ways for a club to be involved in setup or tear down, or just helping out at the actual event by serving meals and things of that nature. Seeing if there is a group that needs some extra help. So is there a way to host a back to school drive for school supplies? There could be a group that needs to do a winter coat drive. There's typically in some larger communities in our counties, typically a group that maybe serves meals to the community with those that are in need. So there's usually something going on in your community or your county that you can get involved in. And if you're just not quite sure, again, ask your county extension staff. Have they recently come across a need in their community, and can they direct you in that way? Is there something happening that maybe the fairgrounds wants to do an update on something? Can your club get involved in that way? And finally, make sure you're asking the youth and the families in your club. Your youth are some of your obviously the biggest asset in your 4-H club, and they likely know some of the things that are happening because they're also involved in their FFA chapter, and they're being invited to come help. Also, it could be your parents in your club might have a great lead from another organization they are involved in as well. So a community audit is a really great way to just kind of survey what's needed in your respective community or county. This is the link that I shared with you earlier. Here's a lot of really great resources that you can use for an educational piece of your club. If you are more of a livestock focus, this livestock information series has a ton of resources. Same thing with the online livestock judging series. If you want to help prepare youth for an upcoming contest, which there is a livestock judging circuit that happens in Nebraska. That's a great way to make sure that you're helping your youth be successful if they have an interest in that. There's STEM at home activities, there's virtual field trips. The virtual field trips, I know they're geared more towards some of the older youth, but they are really, really cool. This was a cool byproduct of our time during COVID and some of the programming that our extension colleagues did during that time. I've heard some of you say you have Clover Kids. If you have a bunch of Clover Kids or you have only Clover Kids, here's a great opportunity for you to refresh your resource bank here. And then finally, the recipes for cooking with kids, just a great list of resources. A lot of them don't require a lot of, extensive kitchen supplies and or ingredients to do. So I also want to take some time here and just also recognize that sometimes we are in a club experience and maybe we're struggling with some problems, right? We may have some lack in involvement. We have a lot of members, but none of them come. There's a lot of resources available to you in this troubleshooting document that I just put in the chat. It really helps us help tackle some challenges that we're having. So if you're experiencing a challenge, there's a good chance that you might find some help in that document. If not, you now have my email address. You are welcome to email me and I'm happy to connect with you to help tackle some of those challenges. Some of the challenges that you might face might include engaging parents. And so I am including this here. I'm also in the chat of some strategies of how to include parents, and then closely followed by also a parent interest survey. So if you're looking at ways to engage the parents of your club members, know that there are some resources available to you, not only through a survey, but also some additional strategies. So when I think about engaging parents, and you need some volunteers for your volunteer role and to support you in that way, my rule of thumb is an announcement is not an invitation. So if you make an announcement, I need volunteers to help with the club hay bale decorating that happens at the county fair. I would encourage you to make that announcement at a club meeting. Then the next month, I would encourage you to just really invite parents individually. So if I walk up to Melanie and say, Melanie, I'm looking for a volunteer to help with this club hay bale decorating that our club will be doing, Melanie is going to have a lot harder time turning me down if I'm staring at her face to face and asking her this question than if I'm asking the group. Melanie has a lot better chance of just ignoring my invitation. So I would encourage you to always think about that. If you need some help with how to engage parents, remember, announcements aren't invitations, and specifically asking people will get you further than just making a broad announcement at your club meeting. So we've had about 35 minutes here of some just sharing of some content. And so now I would like to have the opportunity for all of us to network together and just share ideas that have worked well, and highly encourage you to unmute yourself and or put in the chat about just what are you having problems with that we could help you be successful in your club experience. So if you have a question, now is the time to ask it.
Hi, Jill. I have a question.
Yeah.
My name's Anna Kelly, and I'm a group leader in Lancaster County with Kristen. So, hello. But my question is, I did 4-H when I was basically the whole time I could do 4-H, I was in 4-H. So I don't really remember a lot of like the meetings. I just remember being there, but I don't remember like the specifics. But I was wondering how other clubs or how other clubs might handle. I have a kind of a wide range of kids. I have a lot of kids coming right out of Clover Kids, and then I have some that are like 13. So for me, sometimes I see like the 13-year-olds might start to maybe be a little disinterested because maybe the topic or activity we're doing is like maybe for the younger kids. So how do people go about like having an activity for the younger kids and the older kids that are both like on the same topic? I think that's something that I kind of struggle with, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Anna. I'm so glad that you asked that question. I'll provide a brief answer and then others can definitely pipe in and ask and maybe provide more information for you as well. So something that you might think about doing is make sure that the topics that you are covering and that you're doing for activities are broad enough that it's interesting, but yet you might need to divide up into different groups, and that is totally fine to do. For example, if let's say you're learning about photography at that club meeting and in that club experience, what you might do is recruit some volunteers to help you and really have a basic lesson of photography for the youth who are just, entering 4-H, but then maybe have someone who's a little bit more advanced help the youth that are a little bit older. So you can have the same topic, but you're making it more age appropriate and delivering that in an age appropriate way to two different youth groups. I would also say that, foods is another example. You can definitely have the topic is foods for that day, or if that's your project for the year, but maybe you're doing something more, cooking 101, and we're making a snack mix or no-bake granola bars for older or for younger ones. But the older ones who are maybe in cooking like 201, you're learning about how to do quick breads and things of that nature. So it may take a little bit more work on your end to recruit a couple more volunteers to help you in that way. But that's what I would recommend. And I would love for any others to unmute and share what they would recommend as well.
Hi, this is Kate Bossler in Saline County. One thing we have a wide range too, all the way from Clover Kids all the way up to 18. And a lot of times we'll alternate. So an activity one month might be more geared to the younger kids, and then the next month something more for the older kids. But we often partner them up. So if we're doing an activity, regardless of which age group it's targeted to, we try to put those older kids with the younger kids. The little kids love being with the big kids, and the big kids, it gives them a leadership opportunity.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better. Thanks, Kate. Great tactic there. Any others that would like to share?
This is Melanie, and I'm in Wilbur, Saline County as well. And similar to Jill's club, we have a huge club. Oh, I think my Zoom just crashed.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. So we've actually split by age. And so it's 2 meetings. And I know that doesn't work for everyone, but we had such a large.
Okay, now we may have actually lost Melanie. She went away for me. I don't know if she went away for others. Oh, okay, good. Okay.
University computer hates Zoom, but we've literally set it up so it's 2 separate meetings based on age, and such a huge Clover kid and 8, 9, 10-year-old attendance based on size we had. And so I could literally tailor it by age group, and it was a lot of extra work on behalf, but it was also well received in terms of the kids, the parents, and the guardians of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Melanie. It definitely takes a little bit work on the front end, but that's where I'm going to ask you to recruit some extra volunteers to help you in your volunteer role. That was a great question. Thanks for asking, Anna. Are there others that want to ask a question at this time? We lost Melanie, but Zoom has been interesting these days. If you spend a lot of time on Zoom, you know that sometimes it doesn't want to play nice with you. any others that would like to just unmute and or put it in the chat?
Sorry,
Jill, in some of our clubs here, did I talk over someone?
I think you're okay, Kristen.
Okay, in some of our clubs here, we do have an issue with the parents being engaged. And I'll just reiterate what you said earlier, Jill, that you have to bring in a topic and some learning content that really has some meat to it. So the parents feel like it's worthwhile for them to attend. So keeping that in mind is really good. And also, we delegate out our activities to other parents through the year in a given club so that the leader doesn't have to develop that every time. And if you can do that, you get a real wide variety of topics from the talents and hobbies of the parents. So it really is a nice thing to introduce and give the parents that opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Kristen. That's a great example of how Lancaster County has implemented that into in their program and helped encourage volunteers in that way. It's just because you're a club leader doesn't mean that you have to do all of the work. And that's a little bit of a spoiler alert for Thursday's Lunch and Learn topic. If you are not signed up for Thursday, I would highly recommend that you are. It's a presentation I have seen in the past from my colleagues in Minnesota, where they talk about a shared leadership model. And so it doesn't have to be all on you to make sure that this happens. That definitely it's more of a model in which you can share the responsibility so the club can still have a great experience, like even if you're not there or you have something come up. We know that life happens. And so this is a great opportunity for you to learn about how to maybe take some of the load off of you as a 4-H club or a project leader. Maddie, I thought I saw you unmute earlier. Did you want to share anything?
Sorry, I don't know how to work Zoom well. I was getting a phone call.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. I just wanted to make sure I didn't ignore you.
I do have a question. It's a little bit off topic, but I just got my charter for my club. I haven't started yet. And I actually have interest from my community, a couple of families that the group we're currently in doesn't fit. And I was kind of curious if anybody had a good, I guess, recommendation if I should start right away, get started now, build my curriculum, or wait until October when the 4-H year starts.
Okay, I will go ahead and start and then others can pipe in. All right. So I'm going to answer that by saying it kind of depends on what the goal of your club is. If the goal of your club members, they've expressed interest of wanting to exhibit at this year's county fair, I would encourage you to go ahead and start now. It's only April. You likely have, 3 months or so before your county fair would be. And so if that is a goal of your club members, I would say, go ahead and start. If that's not the goal of your club members, and that is okay, you could wait. So it's totally up to you, but that's my 2 cents, and I would gladly love to hear from others.
No, I appreciate that. That makes total sense.
And Maddie, I would add in for you that even if it is not a goal for your families to exhibit this year, they really don't understand, maybe if they're not 4-H, alumni parents, what a pinnacle experience that is to be at the fair. And so even if you can't do even one project that your members can exhibit, have them go to the fair as a group, as a club, and see it and experience some of the things. And that will really inspire them to work toward that next year.
I love that. I myself am actually still very, very new into the 4-H world. Growing up, it just wasn't in my area because I'm in Sarpy County, Bellevue, so city. That's a great point. Thank you.
Awesome. And Maddie, there's something else in the chat from Melanie I would encourage you to take a peek at as well. I won't necessarily read it to everyone because it's long, but it's good. It's such a good piece of advice. So definitely think about how to focus on the experience of learning. 4-H enrollment and 4-H experience is really, really not really meant to be based solely on exhibiting. It's the experience of learning new things. And so definitely like that and appreciate that from a positive youth development experience as well.
Yes, thank you all.
We have about 15 minutes left of our time together today. Great opportunity to ask some questions if you have a question or want to share something that's been really positive for your club.
I guess I have another question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's gonna be like topics about this later in the week, but kind of something that I really don't know how to go about doing is like officers or like do I have the kids vote on everyone? Because when we first started, there were some new people and it's kind of like we don't really know everyone yet. So I don't really think that maybe it was fair to like have an election on like the first meeting when we haven't really gotten to know each other. So I was just wondering how other clubs like go about, do they elect officers? Does the leader choose them? So I was just kind of seeing what other people do.
Yeah, definitely a great question. And I'm looking into our resources here to give you a quick link as a reference. But I know others do this well, and so I definitely want to hear from others that see how they do it in their club experience.
This is Kate Bossler again. We're in a small community, so the kids usually all know each other. So I guess we don't have that problem of maybe not knowing who everyone is. But we do elect officers at our first meeting. The kids nominate, and then we raise hands to vote, heads down on the table, raise hands to vote. It's kind of falls in line a little bit with parliamentary procedures that the previous officers usually run. We have had times where we've had ties or, maybe too many people nominated or not enough. And so then we usually kind of do a little bit of a lesson on what the office, what you'd be asked to do as that officer, and then possibly have some of the people nominated speak about why they think they would be good at that office. But we do that all at our first meeting. But again, the kids all usually know each other, so we don't have that hurdle.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Kate. I put a couple of links in the chat here about how to elect officers. I definitely think that having the past officer group lead that is a great idea. I would also encourage you to, if you have a wide enough age group of youth, that you might set a limit on the age in which these youth could serve. So think about if you have the opportunity to have older youth serve in that role, that might be advantageous for you. If you do not and you have a younger group, that is perfectly fine to have a younger youth be an officer, and that's why that meeting script comes in very, very helpful. But I think having them stand up and say, my name is Jill, I accept the nomination to serve as club president. This is why I should be the club president. It's an opportunity for the youth to say, I serve on my school's FBLA officer team. I'm a leader in my church's youth group, all of those kinds of things. It's an opportunity for the other youth to hear from them about why they truly would be a good officer. So thanks for sharing, Kate. Definitely Definitely think that's a great way to go. Any others? Carrie added in the chat a couple of minutes ago about how they're planting flower pots around their town and then asking businesses to help water them. And Carrie, I'm interested in asking you, what's the response you get from businesses? Are they willing to help water them for your club? Excellent. Oh, they're even making donations to help pay for the flowers. Wow, that's awesome. So it's a great service project for your club, then also is helping out these businesses as well to help make their storefront look a little bit nicer as well. So definitely a great project. Awesome, Melanie. Thanks for sharing about how to handle officer elections in a bigger club. That's fantastic to allow those opportunities for youth who are different ages. But yeah, absolutely. If you've got a large club, it's great to split them up in that way. Anyone else have a question they want to ask about how to do something specifically for their club? All right. I'm going to go ahead and share kind of my post questions on our poll. I would love to hear what you learned today. So there should be a couple of polls on your screen right now. The first one says, after this session, I am more confident in my ability to lead a 4-H club meeting. So please mark yes, somewhat, or no. And keep those responses coming. The second question says, as a result of today's session, I plan to implement one or more strategy to improve the 4-H club experience I lead. So please mark yes or no on that one as well.
Jill, I just was going to pop in and just tell of an easy community service project that we had done in my Young Clover Kids Club.
Yeah.
And we, during club time, we made Valentine cards. And then one of the families was designated to go take those to various care facilities or to veteran homes to bring a smile to the faces of those out in our community. So that was an easy one for that young group to do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kristen, for sharing that. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating in my poll today. I appreciate your willingness to give me some feedback. And as always, we do these sessions this week of the volunteer every single year, the third week in April. So if you have topics that you specifically want to know more about, please let me know. I will also say we are planning on doing the 4-H Volunteer Roadshow again this fall. And even though we haven't decided what communities we will be going to specifically, I do plan to offer a virtual session as well. So again, thanks for being on today. I'm going to stop the recording, but you're definitely welcome to stay on and ask any questions that you may want to ask after the recording is finished. So the recording